Llilian Llanes is multi-talented, an art and architecture historian, a writer of major books about art and architecture, the founding director of the Central Wifredo Lam, which was begun in 1984 to organize the now world-famous Havana Biennale. She retired 6 years ago in 1998 and has been very busy writing 2 books about Cuban architecture, which have been published in French, English, and Spanish. So, Llilian, how did you get to Havana?
I came to study language and literature, French literature. At the time, the curriculum of our school was common the three first year for all the speciality, from language and literature and for history of art. And for the first time, I learned about this history of art, and I liked it a lot. And in the third year, we have to decide again our specialty, and I changed for history of art. Do you know the Salón de Mayo? It was a very, very big exhibition that coming in Paris after the finished the Second World War. And Wifredo Lam, that at the time used to live in Paris, decided to convince the organizer of the Salón de Mayo to bring the Salón de Mayo to Havana. And at that time, it was a very big show. It was really incredible. And they came and they started to prepare a big mural in front of the public. And we used to go every night to see, well, how the young artists, that they were really very handsome man, and we were young at the time, and we were to see the artists, and we start to see how they paint a big, big mural. It was really fascinating. And it was the first time I saw contemporary art, 1967. When Wifredo Lam died, Moo Hyun came here with his ashtray. Fidel Castro visited her, and he asked her for the homage Cuba could pay to Wifredo Lam, and Fidel told Moo Hyun, I think the best we can do is to create an institution to develop the contemporary art and to exhibit the artists from other places. And at the moment, some of my friends that at the time worked in the Ministry of Culture, they suggest Fidel Castro to create, in name of the Wifredo Lam Center, to create a big exhibition for the contemporary art, like a biennial. These ladies were Marcia Acerca and Beatriz Aulet. In my opinion, 2 of the most important ladies in the Cuban art, and they developed a lot the contemporary Cuban art in the 80s. It was generated a movement in Cuba, a very, very good movement in the art, where all the institutions make some, give some contribution. We have the Instituto Superior de Arte, the ISA, that was the school where the students developed themselves very, very well. We had the Centro de Desarrollo de las Artes Visuales, something like a national gallery that worked a lot with the young Cuban artists. We had the National Museum that worked very well, and we had at the time a lot of institutions. All of the head of the institution, we are very good colleagues. We help each other every time, and we can develop all our projects. For instance, you know, when I start to organize the Havana Biennial, I start to make the deals with everyone, and I ask everyone for things I need, and all of them help me. And we create a space very, very, very energetic, because I organize the biennial. The biennial consists at the time in the big exhibition, in some other exhibition, collateral exhibition, workshops, seminars, and a lot of activity. I organize like a biennial, because I didn't conceive the biennial like exhibition. I conceived the biennial like an evenement where every specialist in visual art have their own space and their own protagonism. No? The artist, the critic of art, the researcher, etc., and everyone feel protagonist in some way. But it was the biennial. But at the same time, I talked to the other institution and convinced them to exhibit it in their spaces other Cuban artists that I have not selected to the biennial. Because in my opinion, the most important thing at the time was, if so many people come to Havana to see the biennial, I have the responsibility also to have the opportunity to all my colleagues to see the other Cuban artists I don't select to the biennial of Havana. And that permit even for me to know if I have done a good selection or not. But everyone that came here have the opportunity to see the artists I have selected for the biennial, at the same time, all the other Cuban artists. I studied in Paris during some time, and I have the opportunity to visit a lot of museums and to actualize myself about contemporary art. And some of things I was impressed to me was the artists from Latin America. There are not in most of the exhibition and the museum. Even the artists that moved to Paris, they are not very visible in the exhibition in Europe. And I saw, well, if there are not a space for the artists from this part of the world, this is the space I have to create. I decide to address the biennial for all the third world, Asia, Africa, and Latin America.
Now, you seem to be adding more countries, because I remember one year you had artists from the US.
Yes, because, that is a very interesting thing. We decide that we are working for the people that nobody pays attention to them. And we focus our work in the subdeveloped country. But in one moment, we saw that there are some artists in the developed country that are in the same condition our artists were. We did with the American Indians, los American Indians from Canada. We have made with the black people, black artists and Indian from United States. But we did also with the Indian artists in Australia.
In the houses of old Cuba, it's fascinating because you begin very early with the thatched houses, with the houses made of palm.
Yes, I begin when the Spanish arrived to Cuba. I wrote this book because I had a lot of information. All my life I made the research about this subject, because for me the architecture permit to understand what happened with the city, with the people, because a house shows you the changes the people has in the time, no? And it is very important when you see some house, you discover not only the time where it was built, how the people used to live. When you see the evolution of the Cuban houses, you could see how, at the same time, the Spanish people that stay in Cuba, come and stay in Cuba, start to change. And they start to live, at the beginning, they live in the building closest, like in Europe. But little by little, they open the walls, they open their mind. At the beginning, the houses receive a lot of ornamentation made by wood, because they are where the material the people have at the time. Little by little, when the sugar industry developed, the worker, the professional, the technician start to learn how to work with the iron, and you discover a lot of details in the Cuban architecture made by iron. And all the details you see like details in the Cuban architecture are always something functional. It appears because it is necessary for the best life inside the house. You know, it's very interesting that, because the function and the decoration are together. When some writers talk about the Cuban Baroque, talking about this kind of style that developed in Cuba, taking some detail of the Baroque style. But we talk always, we are Baroque, because we are like a Baroque. We always, when we are together, three people, we can maintain three conversations at the same time. No? And that is why we are always Baroque, because we have the possibility to explain in many, many ways, like in the Baroque. No? As you know, I am writing my memories of the Havana Biennial that I have to stop even sometimes, because it's very strong for me to remember. It's very strong for me to dedicate all the time doing that. I have to stop 6 months and I continue. I have written until now 800 pages. Maybe it's nothing interesting, but I have 800 pages written, and I have all my photos with all the people in the biennial, most of the paint, the works exhibited in the biennial, and the workshop, images of the workshops, of the people that came, etc. I have scanned it now, and I have organized it in my computer, because I would like to include all the images in the book the day I finish.
Two books about Cuban architecture, which have been published in French, English, and Spanish. So, Llilian, how did you get to Havana?
I came to study language and literature, French literature. At the time, the curriculum of our school was common the three first year for all the speciality, from language and literature and for history of art. And for the first time, I learned about this history of art, and I like it. And Wifredo Lam, that at the time used to live in Paris, decided to convince the organizer of the Salón de Mayo to bring the Salón de Mayo to Havana. And at that time, it was a very big show. It was really incredible. And they came and they started to prepare a big mural in front of the public, and we used to work a lot. And in the third year, we have to decide again our specialty, and I changed for history of art. Do you know the Salón de Mayo? It was a very, very big exhibition that coming in Paris after the finished the Second World War.
Llilian Llanes is multi-talented, an art and architecture historian, a writer of major books about art and architecture, the founding director of the Centro Wifredo Lam, which was begun in 1984 to organize the now world-famous Havana Biennale. She retired 6 years ago in 1998 and has been very busy writing